All right, Warriors fans, the big storyline this week is finally here, and it is all about the arrival of Al Horford in the Bay. The introductory press conference gave us the first real look at how he is feeling, what the team is expecting from him, and how the Warriors plan to use him going forward. I will be honest, when the initial reports came out that Golden State was chasing Horford, my first reaction was hesitation. At this point in his career, with his age and the mileage on his body, the first thought is always about durability. He did not suit up for back-to-backs last season, and that is something you cannot just ignore. The Warriors are going to have to manage that situation carefully if they want him fresh when it matters most. But hearing him speak, seeing the confidence in the way he addressed his role, I actually walked away feeling better than I did a week ago. He brings something to this team that numbers cannot fully measure, and that is the mindset of a champion. And that is exactly what stands out with Horford. This Warriors roster has skill, it has talent, but it does not necessarily have size and length compared to some of the bigger contenders in the league. They do not have 3 or 4 7-footers waiting on the bench to throw out there. What they do have, however, is that collective drive to win at the highest level, and Horford has lived that reality for nearly 2 decades. He was part of deep playoff runs in Boston. He tasted the heartbreak of losing the finals to Golden State back in 2022, and then he turned around and finally lifted the trophy in 2024 with Dallas. Before any of that, he had already been crowned a champion twice with Florida in his college days. That history matters. It matters because he knows what it takes to prepare, what it takes to survive, and what it takes to finish. A lot of guys say they're chasing a title, but only a handful actually know what it demands on a daily basis. Horford has walked that road, and he is bringing that mentality straight into the Warriors' locker room. This is even more important when you think about the role of Quentin Post, the lone true 7-footer on the roster. The Warriors want to give him meaningful minutes this year. Let him grow, let him take those steps to become a long-term piece of this franchise. Having Horford around to mentor him is exactly the kind of steady influence that can shape a young player's career. And Horford is not a guy who gets distracted by the extras. He is not out there at center court chatting with the opposition or hugging it out after every whistle. He is all business. 19 years into the league, and his demeanor has never changed. Shake hands after the game, get in the locker room, and move on. That quiet but unshakable focus is exactly what this Warriors team needs as they try to build a new identity without the luxury of dominating size inside. And then there is Draymond Green. At this stage of his career, you can tell he does not want to play heavy minutes at center anymore. His body has taken a beating over the years, and banging with giants like Rudy Gobert for an entire season just is not realistic. We saw it in the Timberwolves series, how much extra effort required from Draymond just to keep the rebounding battle competitive. That is not sustainable for 82 games plus playoffs. What Draymond does bring now is the ability to orchestrate the offense like a point forward. You give him the ball at the elbow, he reads the floor, he finds Steph Curry popping up at the arc or a cutter diving to the rim. He is still the engine of ball movement, the guy who keeps the offense flowing when it risks slowing down. And Horford fits into that picture perfectly. He can stretch the floor, hit the open 3 when Draymond swings it to him, and at the same time, he can teach Post how to play within that system, how to set the right screen, how to make the extra pass. The Warriors are not asking Horford to carry the load. They're asking him to help elevate the younger guys and keep the system balanced. But even with Horford's arrival, the truth is there are still questions hanging over this roster. Ever since Bob Myers stepped down in 2023, the front office has been under the microscope. Mike Dunleavy Jr. has been tasked with holding it all together, and while he has made some solid moves, there is still doubt about whether he is the guy who can pull off the big ones. Bringing in Jimmy Butler was a bold step, and it paid off immediately, but beyond that, the team still feels incomplete. Dunleavy himself admitted during the press conference that more moves could be on the horizon. He mentioned Jonathan Kuminga by name, hinting that younger players might end up being trade chips if the right opportunity presents itself. That honesty is important because as good as this roster looks on paper, it is not at the level where you can say it is set in stone. Think about what was left on the table. Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton were both potential fits for the Warriors this offseason. Imagine adding a former Defensive Player of the Year alongside a former #1 overall pick who still has untapped potential. That could have completely changed the outlook of this team. Instead, both of those guys ended up at the Lakers, and now the Warriors will be staring at them across the court this very weekend. It is one thing to miss out on talent. It is another to have to line up against them in a rivalry game to kick off the season. And that is why Sunday's matchup against Los Angeles is so intriguing. On the surface, it is just a preseason game, a chance for veterans like LeBron and Steph to jog around for a few minutes before calling a night. But for the younger guys, for players fighting for roster spots, this is the first audition. It is the first chance to show they belong, to prove they can handle the speed, the physicality, and the pressure of going up against established stars. And it's going to be a huge test for Quentin Post. Going head-to-head with DeAndre Ayton right out of the gate is no joke. If he can hold his own, box out, knock down a couple of threes, and show the versatility that made him such an interesting prospect, then the Warriors will feel a lot better about their front court rotation moving forward. If not, then those concerns about depth in the middle are only going to get louder. And honestly, the Lakers game could also serve as a showcase for some of the Warriors' bench players. Teams across the league are always scouting these preseason moments, looking for young pieces they could pry away and trade. The Warriors might need to use some of that depth to bring in another big man or another long wing who can help balance the roster. The reality is we will not know if this group has enough to contend for a championship anytime soon. You cannot judge that off preseason games. You probably cannot even judge it in the first month of the season. Sometimes it takes until January or February before you can really see what a team is made of. And history shows that mid-season trades rarely push a team over the top. In fact, in the last 25 years, only the 2004 Detroit Pistons made a major mid-season deal, bringing in Rasheed Wallace, and went on to win the championship. Most of the time, those kinds of moves are too little, too late. That is why the Warriors need to start figuring out what they have right now. They cannot just hope that a blockbuster trade magically fixes everything. So as we head into this weekend, Warriors fans should watch closely. Watch how Horford looks in his first minutes in blue and gold. Watch how Draymond settles into his playmaking role. Watch how Post responds to the challenge of going against Ayton. These are the first pieces of the puzzle. Even if the final score does not matter, the details within the game will tell us a lot about what direction this season is heading. And that is what makes Sunday night so important. What really makes this season fascinating for Golden State is how much of it is riding on timing. The veterans on the roster, especially Steph and Draymond, are still brilliant, but the reality is that every year from here on out is about maximizing what is left of their prime windows. Adding someone like Horford fits into that timeline perfectly. He is not here to be a 5-year solution. He is here to be the steady hand, the teacher, and the guy who can give you meaningful minutes in critical stretches of the season. But that role only matters if the rest of the roster rises to the occasion. The Warriors do not need Horford to suddenly be a 20-point scorer. They need him to set the tone defensively, keep the locker room grounded, and allow the younger bigs to grow without all the weight of expectation crashing down on them immediately. That is why Sunday against the Lakers is such an interesting test. You're not just watching the stars. You are watching how the supporting cast handles the spotlight. When you think back to what made the Warriors dynasty so dangerous, it was never just about the headliners. Sure, Steph, Clay, and Draymond were the foundation, but they always had that perfect blend of role players who knew their jobs and did them without hesitation. Whether it was Andre Iguodala playing the finals MVP role, Sean Livingston controlling the second unit, or centers like JaVale McGee and Zaza Pachulia providing size, those contributions mattered. Right now, this version of the Warriors does not have that same certainty. There are question marks everywhere. Who steps into the sixth-man role and provides reliable scoring? Who off the bench is going to be the defensive stopper? And most importantly, can the team find consistent production in the paint? Those are the answers that will define this season. Mike Dunleavy has already shown that he is not afraid to make a bold move, but he also carries the weight of following a general manager who delivered 4 championships. Every decision he makes is going to be measured against the Bob Myers era, and that is not an easy place to be. When he traded for Jimmy Butler, it sent shockwaves across the league because it showed Golden State was not content with just hanging around in the middle of the pack. They wanted to win now. Butler immediately gave them that edge, that competitiveness, that toughness that pairs perfectly with Draymond's voice on the court. But bringing in Butler was just one step. The roster still feels thin in areas that become glaring when you face the best teams in the league. Depth in the middle, length on the wing, and a bench unit that can hold leads instead of letting them slip. Those are the gaps that Dunleavy has to address sooner rather than later. And this is where the pressure of the Western Conference comes into play. Unlike some seasons where there is a clear favorite, this year feels wide open. Denver is still a powerhouse with Jokic. Minnesota has shown growth. Dallas is riding high after their title. And of course, the Lakers are always lurking with LeBron and Anthony Davis. The margin for error is razor thin. If you do not have the right mix of size, defense, and shooting, you get exposed fast. That is why missing out on Ayton and Smart stings so much. Both players would have answered immediate needs, and now, instead of being in Golden State, they are part of a Lakers roster that the Warriors will see right away. That kind of swing can decide playoff series before the postseason even arrives. But here's the thing about Golden State. They thrive when people doubt them. We saw it back in 2022 when many thought the dynasty was over, and yet they retooled, regrouped, and stormed back to win another championship. This group feeds off being questioned, and maybe that is exactly what they need right now. Horford's addition might not wow the casual fan, but inside that locker room, his presence is going to carry weight. Younger players like Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, and Quentin Post are going to feel that standard every single day in practice. They're going to learn quickly that you cannot coast, you cannot waste reps, because Horford will not allow it. That is where the culture of winning is built, not just on game night, but every single day in between. And let's not forget about Steph Curry in all of this. He is still the heartbeat of the franchise, the guy who tilts the court every time he steps on it. His shooting, his gravity, his leadership, all of it is still at the elite level. But even Steph needs help. He cannot be the only one creating offense. He cannot be the only one stretching defenses thin. That is why the chemistry with Seth Curry is going to be something to watch closely. Having both brothers on the court at the same time gives the Warriors a unique dynamic. Defenses will be forced to stretch even further, and it might just create the spacing that allows Horford and Post to thrive inside. It is a small detail, but sometimes it is those little wrinkles that make the biggest difference over the course of a long season. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Explosive rumors are shaking the NBA world. Sources whisper that Kyrie Irving, one of the most electrifying and controversial stars in recent years, might be headed to the Golden State Warriors. The mere thought of pairing him with Stephen Curry has already sent shockwaves through social media, sports forums, and the locker rooms of rival teams. While nothing is official, insiders hint that negotiations are in advanced stages, with the Warriors eager to add another superstar to their already fearsome lineup. Fans and analysts alike are imagining a backcourt that could redefine modern basketball. Curry's pinpoint shooting and leadership combined with Irving's dazzling handles and scoring prowess could create one of the most lethal duos the league has ever seen. The Warriors, who have dominated the Western Conference for much of the past decade, might be looking to reclaim absolute supremacy, and Kyrie's arrival would signal their intent to shake up the status quo. The buzz is not only about the on-court potential. Kyrie's presence would also bring a new level of attention, controversy, and flair to the Bay Area. Social media is already exploding with memes, highlight compilations, and debates. Could Curry and Irving coexist seamlessly, or would their individual star power clash? Former players and commentators are weighing in, some calling it a dream pairing, while others caution about potential chemistry issues. Sources suggest that if the deal goes through, it could involve a blockbuster trade or a high-profile free agency move, with the Warriors ready to make significant roster adjustments to accommodate Irving. Behind the scenes, whispers tell of long conversations between agents, front offices, and even family members, all aiming to finalize what could be the NBA's most shocking move in years. While fans eagerly await confirmation, the speculation alone is already changing narratives around the league. Warriors jerseys with Irving's name are trending online, and ticket demand for next season's games has reportedly spiked. Whether this rumor materializes or not, one thing is clear. The NBA is abuzz, and the prospect of Kyrie Irving joining Stephen Curry in Golden State has every basketball fan on edge, imagining what could be an unforgettable chapter in the history of the sport. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.